Hello, it's Adrienne Lawrence, and I am here to provide you with some commentary after watching Donald Trump sit before a bunch of Florida voters at the town hall and NBC with Savannah Guthrie. And it's difficult for me to really share this in part because there's such a not so great taste in my mouth. I had to watch it. It was a long hour of my life, especially after Twitter being down earlier today. And I'm a little broken inside, but I definitely can tell you there were a fair amount of misrepresentations, plenty of lies, and oodles of excuses. But I'm going to go ahead and give you my commentary and my thoughts on that, just in case you want to feel the pain that I have felt over the last hour. So let's go ahead and get this thing started. So, as you may remember, Trump had COVID. Yes, our COVID-19 in chief. He did not want to virtually debate with Biden. And as a result, they canceled that second presidential debate, which was supposed to happen tonight. And then when Trump found out that Biden had made arrangements with ABC to go ahead and do his own little separate town hall, Trump got a little bit jealous, talked to NBC, and he got it set up so that he could have the town hall tonight, exact same time, competing networks. It was just a whole bunch of shenanigans. And so this is the situation we're in, and this is where we are. So he decided, Trump, to have this town hall tonight in Florida. I believe they were in Miami. And just to kind of give you the demographics, Florida, very much a swing state. And also, there are 14 million eligible voters in Florida, and 1.9 million have already voted. And apparently that looks about at almost a million. It's 960,000 Democrats have already voted. And it's so many more than the Republicans out there, which is usually not the case. It's usually Republicans who have gotten in their vote early. So this says a lot in terms of Republicans getting out there. And I know last week we had talked on the show with Kathy Aru, who works for Cubanos con Biden, and she talked about that swing vote that could potentially happen with the Cubans down there in Florida. So there is a lot going on. And if you did watch this Trump debate, well, I guess conversation town hall, although the way it went with Savannah, it could have been a debate, that's for sure. Well, you would have seen from the questions that Trump was fielding from a number of the guests there that were citizens down in Florida, that they seemed kind of warm to Trump. And that was very odd. But when we get to the meat of the question, so Savannah started it out largely asking about Trump's health, since he just had COVID. And apparently NBC would not have had this town hall with him if he had any remnants of COVID in his system. And they finally got confirmation yesterday that he was on the healthier side. So they went ahead and went through with this town hall. But Trump, of course, he said, I had a little bit of a temperature, but I feel good. I feel strong. You know, he talks a good game about feeling great. And he really went out of his way to promote this product, Regeneron. And he talks about Eli Lilly, who I assume is the maybe CEO or manufacturer of Regeneron. But we do know that Eli Lilly and Regeneron, that they are seeking FDA approval for the antibodies that boosted up Trump's immune system. So he says, who knows how this is working? Who knows how viable this is? Who knows if Trump has any relationship with this Eli Lilly character or Regeneron, but Trump is touting it as this wonder drug. And as we've seen Trump get into business and into bed with various people and making sure that he profits from it, I don't know what to think. But as I've said on Twitter, I will say here again, I'm not taking anything until Dr. Fauci says it's good. I think we can all agree on that. And then also it came to blaming China, as Trump has done before. He often deflected from Savannah Guthrie's questions by trying to make this more of a China issue and also being quite racist about it. He said, many people are getting this disease. It was sent here by China. And it was just clearly a way that he could deflect, blame. It was incredibly problematic. And Trump, he also said that we have so much of this under control in terms of the coronavirus, and that he always has had it under control, and he always has taken it seriously from day one. He made it seem like, of course, he was the savior, and he made all of the precautions and treated it so seriously. It's not the case. As we know, back February 23rd, he said it's a little like the regular flu, and we have flu shots for that. And we'll essentially have a flu shot for this in a fairly quick manner. And then February 26th, he says it's going to disappear. One day, it's like a miracle. It'll disappear. February 27th, no, I'm not concerned at all. No, we've done a great job with it. Yeah. Trump, day one, he was not taking this seriously. And he's still not taking this seriously. As he was asked by one of the constituents there who was at the town hall, the question on whether he has changed his opinion on masks. Trump? No, not at all. He tried to blame it on people he's interacting with. That what's it going to do? How's it going to help in any way? He even cited some study saying that 85% of people who wear masks catch COVID, or I guess 85% of the people who caught COVID were wearing masks. That is a completely inaccurate study. The study found that people who contracted COVID-19, that they were more likely to be eating out at restaurants and to both have tested positive and negative for the virus while they were reporting they were wearing masks at similar rates. So all the evidence, all the studies out there, they conclusively confirm that wearing a mask does indeed help slow the transmission of the deadly coronavirus. So please continue to wear masks, no matter what Donald Trump has to say. Also, something to take note of is that the US does not, I repeat, does not have the coronavirus under control. In fact, the outbreak is uncontrolled, and there are a few signs of it turning around. The US has had more cases than any country, and with more than 8 million people and more deaths than any country, recently surpassing 218,000 deaths due to the coronavirus. This is problematic, and it's not turning around anytime soon, unfortunately, and we cannot stop wearing masks, washing our hands, staying inside, social distancing, acting right. Also, Trump was asked by one of the constituents there why he didn't do more to protect the country, knowing earlier that coronavirus was airborne and problematic. The constituent had cited Bob Woodward's book, which has been kind of controversial since we knew Woodward had that information and kind of sat on it so he can get a book deal. Yeah, it's cool. Anyways, so Trump, of course, claiming that he was the early savior, did the right thing. He said he didn't want to panic the country. Also, there's no middle ground between panic and not panicking. He claimed that the original projections for the coronavirus deaths were 2.2 million Americans. That is not true at all. Trump is referring to a published model that came out March 17th by the Imperial College London. And what it did was predict that there would be 2.2 million deaths in America if nothing at all was done, if there was no mitigation efforts whatsoever, if we weren't encouraging people to wash their hands or to wear masks or to social distance. And because we started putting those requirements, those requests, having stay-at-home orders in play, that's why we do not have 2.2 million deaths as projected. So Trump didn't save anybody. And well, I guess speaking of white saviors, Savannah Guthrie, well, she went ahead and went straight at Trump on whether he backs white supremacy. And let me tell you, Trump, no. He didn't take it too well. He, of course, made it seem like you're attacking me. And he was so quick to turn it around and saying, you're not asking Biden if he denounces Antifa. Whatever. But he did say, I denounce white supremacy. I've denounced white supremacy for years, which is really interesting because his actions seem to be quite inconsistent with that. And as we recall at that first debate, he said, stand back, stand by, something like that in terms of the Proud Boys. Yeah. So I think we really know where Trump stands. Also, he was asked about QAnon and he pretended not to know who they were, other than a group that really likes to focus on ending pedophilia. And he kind of liked to note that that was really admirable, which I definitely think that not having pedophilia is admirable. But when it is based on a radical conspiracy theory, I think it becomes quite problematic. And as we've seen recently with social media platforms now getting rid of those Antifa groups, or excuse me, there I go with that QAnon groups, and really going after the content and shutting that stuff down, I think it speaks to the fact that it's no longer going to be socially acceptable in any form or fashion. So Trump may have not taken the best play on that when asked directly to refute essentially any association he has with QAnon. Also, Savannah Guthrie went at Trump's pocketbook. She asked, who does he owe $421 million to? And of course, Trump, he's a businessman that he is, says that he is very underleveraged, believe it or not. He can't say whether or not he owns foreign creditors, but he's, this is just all a part of doing business. He also loved to, of course, play the victim. And he echoed the fact that he's treated very badly by the IRS, like any of us are treated really great by tax collectors, whatever that is. But that also he won't release his tax returns because common sense and intelligence precludes him from doing so. His lawyers tell him not to. Essentially, it was excuse after excuse after excuse. The good thing, though, is that several journalists have put together a list of who he does owe based on maybe the public documents he's had to file to publicly state who he owes. So that information, it's out there, but he won't admit to it. He won't admit to many things. But one thing he did admit to, which was pretty awesome, was that he would make a peaceful transfer of power if he does not win in November. That was very good to hear. Whether he'll actually back that will be questionable. But what he did say is, yes, I will, in terms of making that peaceful transfer of power. But then he went ahead and noted that he wants an honest election. And he says, when I see thousands of ballots and they happen to have my name on it, I'm not happy about it. Giving that nod to the thought that the election is not being held in a credible way. And excuse me, he said, when I see thousands of ballots in a trash can and they have my name on it, I'm not happy about it. That's nonsense. And there's nothing to support it. Savannah Guthrie called him out on that. And it's more nonsense from him. Also, of course, Trump wanted to go ahead and deflect, which he did, in terms of saying that the Obama administration had spied on his campaign and got caught. Fact check, that ain't nothing. The Justice Department, they did a review and found that the investigation into the Russian interference in that 2016 election, that it was completely justified. There was a 434-page report out there that was released where the Inspector General said he examined more than 1 million documents, interviewed more than 100 witnesses, and reached the report's conclusion that it was justified to do this investigation. Nobody was spying on Trump and using illicit means. So it was just more deflection, more blaming, more nonsense. Also, something that was more nonsense was Trump's claim that, hey, this is the best economy ever. It is going phenomenal. And that the fourth quarter, it's going to be even better. GDP is going through the roof, he said. Jobs, real estate, housing, it's all about to jump off. 11.4 million jobs is what he said when he was asked by one of the constituents how he plans to jumpstart the economy. No, not so much the case. Yes, the U.S. had some of the best years it's ever seen in terms of job gains and employment. And that was like 2014, 2015. And that was during Obama's second term. And Obama was averaging about 225,000 jobs a month. Now, Trump, he's peaked in 2018, averaging 193,000 jobs a month. The thing is that, of course, with the pandemic, the economy had to be shut down. And so it's difficult to measure that. But when we look at the employment and unemployment rates, even outside of that, it's clear that Trump has not done as great of a job or did not create as great of a system as what we had during the Obama's second administration. And I'm sure that's something that keeps Trump up late at night. And you know how he is. He's so obsessed with Obama. It's so weird. But I'm sure Obama just, sees it as a flex and keeps rolling. But as far as August goes, the unemployment rate, it's fallen to 8.4%. And the thing is it had reached Great Depression level like heights and rates during the COVID-19 true pandemic when we were on full lockdown, and it was as high as 19.7%. So it has gotten exponentially better. It's kind of dropped in half, but we're gonna have to see how things go. As we know, we expect another wave of the pandemic to come through. I think they say like the third wave, even though we all know we haven't left the first, but whatever. Also, Trump talked about Obamacare, of course. It's really been his effort to gut it and to take away people's healthcare liberties. And of course, he sat there and all he could say were these generalities and these general statements about, I want to make it better. He says Obamacare is not care. Oh, the problem with Obamacare is that it is never going to be great. These are things he's saying that, geez, they're not even platitudes. It's like they're just these generalizations that have no substance or foundation in them whatsoever. And so he didn't give a real answer for that. It's clear that he just wants to, quote unquote, replace it with something much better, but they don't propose anything. If anything, they're just taking away from the Affordable Care Act and cutting it to pieces and shredding it. Yet there is nothing on the table, even when Trump had full control of Congress in its entirety, where the Republicans, they were ruling the party there. They had everything going for them, and they still did not make the necessary changes that they promised. Because taking away the Affordable Care Act without replacing it with something better or great, it's not going to help anybody. It's problematic. And also what's problematic, although which is so on par for Trump, was he blamed Nancy Pelosi for why there's not another stimulus package out to the citizens. And it's absolutely wild to me, given that we saw Trump's tweet saying that he did not want to talk anymore about stimulus. He wanted to wait and see how the election went. He had created a hostage situation for us where essentially I'm not giving you any money until you vote for me, and I know that I'm coming back. That's the problem. And when Savannah Guthrie, when she asked him directly about that, he says, well, that's business. That's negotiation. That's how you talk. Get out of here. It's like he's got 18 million followers and a nation full of people who are struggling right now to pay their bills, to make rent. We can't deal with him having these situations at the table where he's engaged in absolute shenanigans. And then now he comes to this town hall and blames it all on Nancy Pelosi. Get out of here. Nobody has time for it. Unfortunately, we have to deal with it until February, but hopefully something changes. And nothing definitely will change with the corporate tax cuts. He really seemed to be very impressed with himself on that. Also, something that was rather entertaining, when asked about Barrett, Amy Coney Barrett, the Seventh Circuit judge that he is now nominated for the Supreme Court position to replace Ruth Bader Ginsburg, he was asked by someone in the audience essentially with the thought of, hey, didn't the Republicans say that they weren't going to allow Merrick Garland to go ahead and take to the court? And I think that was 8 months before an election. And yet, it's a few weeks before, and now we're doing this confirmation process with Amy Coney Barrett. Isn't that hypocritical? And of course, I don't love, or maybe by love, I mean hate. Trump's response was, well, the Democrats would do it if they were in my position. That tells you a lot about how he thinks. And of course, on that same Amy Coney Barrett topic, he was asked about Roe v. Wade and gutting out women's right to abortion. He said it was a moral issue, a legal issue, and that he prefers someone who is a great jurist, who's a brilliant jurist, to make the decision. He didn't feel he was qualified to make it, although we all know he's probably made a few of them decisions himself, or at least he should have. But we're not going to talk about that. But what he is essentially telling us is that he is putting it in Amy Coney Barrett's hands. And as we've seen, she's made it abundantly clear that she doesn't think Roe v. Wade was properly decided and that abortion should continue to be legal. Now, of course, at her confirmation hearing, she would not address it. But as we know, based on the literature she's written, the law review articles, public statements that she's made, as well as statements that she's signed, that Amy Coney Barrett isn't here for the right to abortion. And that's a problem. So I think that kind of wraps things up for Trump's town hall. Forgive me for essentially reciting all those lies. I hope I got them out in good time. But it was quite a sight to see, and just a reminder as to why the man cannot be trusted, nor can his administration. And so if any of you out there are still contemplating who they're going to be voting for, oh, wow, I really don't know what to tell you, but I can assure you the war of 2020, it'll be special if things don't get fixed, because, whoo, buddy, it is scary out there, the way a lot of this world is going and the way people are talking. But we are going to go ahead, full steam ahead, in terms of making sure that we stand up for what's right and the progressive viewpoints, and also make some change. So please keep your voice in this, keep your vote in this, and have a good night.